Welcome back to my next playthrough series. This time it's Dead of Winter. Now this game is usually a semi-co-op 2 to 5 player game where there's a hidden traitor mechanic, but it can be played fully cooperative, and that's what I'm going to do here on my channel. I'm going to do a 2-player fully cooperative game. So I got things partially set up. There are 6 locations in the game outside of your colony, which is your main base. And the gist of the game is you're going to have 1 of 10 main objectives that you are trying to complete by the end of so many rounds. And you have a morale track. And if your morale ever goes to 0, well, you've given up, you've lost the game. Morale goes down by things like starving to death, which we'll see. I don't know why I put what that token in there, it should be in there. And if any of your colonists die, well, yeah, your morale goes down. And of course the game comes with the all-hated dice, and it's this one you roll anytime you move to a different location. So if you move from the colony to an outer location, which you'll need to go to search through those locations looking for gasoline and food and weapons and such to complete your mission, your main objective, and or just survive, you have to roll this horrible dice. You can either get frostbite, a wound, nothing, or if you roll the tooth symbol, it means you've been bitten by the zombie plague and you're dead. Your character dies. Yes, it's a brutal game. Okay, let's get into the setup and start playing. So like I'm going to be playing a 2-player co-op. Everything's listed on the round summary, the player turn actions. I'll try to explain as I play the game. I will be using zombies. The game does come with, and I put them somewhere, standee zombies that look kind of like this. These are your player characters. But I'm going to use zombies. They just, I don't know, they look better to me on the board than the standee zombies, which is nothing wrong with them. They are colored. They're actually quite good. And I put them somewhere and I can't find them. But anyway, let's get into the setup. Alright, so as part of the setup, you have a deck of cards for each location. So we have a hospital, a school, a police station, a grocery store, a library, and a gas station. And of course it's winter time, so this is all snowy scenery on every location. And each of these decks has a deck of cards specific to that location. So this is the hospital. So of course you take every individual deck and you shuffle them up of all those cards and you put them right here into each location. Now these are decks of cards that you'll be able to search. The things you will find in them are somewhat specific to the location. So at the hospital you're more likely to find medicine, then gasoline, then food, then junk, and then other survivors. Whereas if you look at the school, you're more likely to find some food, and then books, which you're not finding anywhere else, specifically, unless you go to the library, and then junk, medicine, and survivors. So you kind of can look at these. Of course, the police station, you find weapons and gasoline before anything else. Grocery store, food and medicine. Library, basically books and gasoline. And the gas station, obviously, the first, most obvious thing you find there is gas, and then weapons and some food. Food is important in the game. I'll find out why. Okay, there are 10 scenarios in this game. They have 2 sides. They have a exclamation point side, and they have a non-exclamation point side. You're supposed to use this side when you're playing semi-co-op with the possibility of a traitor in your camp, and you're supposed to use this side when you do a fully co-op, which is what we're going to do. So, just to figure out which one we're going to play, so we're just going to go 1, 2, 3, 4, I think there's 5. So 5, 6, 7. Now, yes, there are 10. So I'm just going to get out a 10-sided die. I'm going to roll it, and we're just going to see which of our 10 scenarios we're going to be playing. Alright, I grabbed a 10-sided die, and the scenario we will be trying to complete cooperatively is going to be... oh, it's leaning. Let's try that again. Come on, stop leaning. A 2! So we're going to be doing scenario number 2. So let's figure out what 2 is, and that will then have lots to do with the rest of our setup. So first one, so we're going to be doing Too Many Mouths. Ooh, that sounds like we're going to be into a game where we have too many people to feed. We're going to need a lot of food. Alright, so it tells you the morale track starts at 7 and the round track starts at 6. So let's set that up. Alright, so for this scenario, we have the morale track starting at 7, which is actually quite high, but I'm sure that's there for a reason. And we have round track starting at 6. So we have 6 rounds to complete our main objective, which happens to be, it says, add helpless survivor tokens to the colony equal to the number of players plus 5? Add 12 zombies to the colony. Oh my goodness. The victory conditions is just survive 6 rounds. Period. So basically we have to survive 6 rounds, which means we can't have our morale go to 0. Wow. Okay. At the start of the game, read section M09 on page 17. So that's going to give us an opening sort of little paragraph of what's going on and how we got into this horrific situation in the first place. So I'm going to get that set up. So these are considered useless survivors. Sorry, what are they called? They are helpless. They are also useless survivors. They're just double-sided. So females on one side, males on the other. And so we're going to be playing a 2-player game. So we're going to be putting 7 of these into our colony. And that is really not good. Let me get that set up. Alright, so there are our 7 helpless/useless survivors in the colony. We have too many mouths to feed, obviously. And when we'll take a look at the turn tracker, how everything operates. But basically, we're going to be having to play cards to put food in our food supply. And for the colony, we take the total number of colonists, including the useless ones, and we'll get to that here once we get finished with our setup, divide it by 2, and that's rounded up. And that's how much food you need in the food supply. If you don't have it, you get a starvation token. For every starvation token in the food supply, your morale is going to drop 1. So the first time you starve, your morale is going to drop 1. The second time you start starving, you're going to drop by 2. The third time you're starving, you're going to drop by 3. And it just gets worse and worse until everybody starves, and it's basically the end of the colony. Wow. All right, we also have, I mean, what would a zombie game be without crises happening? So there's this entire deck of crises cards. So every turn, we're going to have some kind of unique and horrible crises happening in the game. Which, yeah, because of course, what would a zombie apocalypse be without endless crises happening? So there's crises that are going to happen, and we're going to have to contribute crisis contribution cards to try to overcome what the crisis is happening. You'll see that as part of the setup as well. All right, continuing on, we have survivors. We have a whole deck of survivors. Now, in a 2-player game, each player is going to be controlling 3 survivors. And I have 4 dice here because on each player mat, you get 1 die per survivor that you're controlling, plus 1 extra die. So we're going to be rolling 4 dice. And of course, the dice are going to be allowing you to take actions. And so let's get our 2-player characters set up. All right, so I just randomly, so let's shuffle these up. We're going to just be pulling 3 per player character in the game. So we're doing a 2-character game. So we're going to have 6 survivors to start with. And the first one you pull off is going to be your group leader. Our group leader for 1 is James Myers, the psychiatrist. He's got a value 54. These will become important later on. So his fight value is, you need a 6+ die. His search is 3+. His special ability, once per round, you may re-roll 1 or more of your unused action dice. You must keep the second roll. So he's good for a re-roll. All right, well, he's the leader of group number 1, and we have 2 followers. This next follower is Olivia Brown, Doctor, 56. Anywhere, and she has a fight value of 4 and a search value of 3. We'll get into how that works as we play the game. Anywhere, once per round, you may remove any type of wound token from a survivor that shares a location with Olivia. Olivia may use this ability on herself. Oh, cool. All right, so we have a healer in group 1, and the second follower is Sophie Robinson, the pilot. Anywhere, so she's got a fight of 4, a search of 1. Wow, we got to send her out searching for stuff. Anywhere, once per round, you may look at the top card of a single location's item deck. After you've looked at the card, place it back on top of that item deck. So she basically gets to scope out what's on the top of any one of the location decks. All right, that is party number 1. And they also start, we have starting cards. Now, it's all open information because we're playing co-op. And these are all items, and they all say starter item. And there's food, there's medicine, there's gasoline, there's junk. There's a bunch of stuff in here. And we start with 7 cards apiece. And you're thinking, that's tons, not a problem. Oh yeah, it's going to become a problem once we have to deal with crises and feed the colonists, of which there are a lot. Now I got to find the standees for these characters, and they start off in the colony location. So they get 7 cards. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. So each player starts with 7 starter cards. So in their deck they've got a food, they got some junk, they got some medicine, some fuel, another food, medicine, junk. Okay. That is their player hand. All right, let's set up player character number 2. And the same thing for player character number 2. We'll give this another shuffle. We're going to get 3 more survivors for player character number 2 in this post-apocalyptic, wintry, horrible situation. All right, and the leader for player 2 is Brandon Kane, the janitor. So there we go. So he can fight on a 2+. I guess he uses his broom, his mop, and he can search on a 4+. Okay. Colony. Oh, so when he's in the colony, once per round, you may remove 5 cards instead of 3 from the waste pile when taking the clean waste action. Why is that important? Well, whenever you play a card, I'll just take a look at player 1's card. So if we play the junk card, waste pile, re-roll an unused action die you control. So if you play that into the junk or the waste pile, you get to re-roll a die. So, and waste will build up. If you ever have 10 waste in your pile, for every 10 cards in the waste pile, you lose 1 morale, because nobody wants to live in a completely gross and dirty environment. So that's our colony. So our leader for 2 is Brandon Kane, and we have a couple followers. Carla Thompson, the police dispatcher. She can hit on a 4+, and 2+ is her search. Police station. Once per round, when performing a search at the police station, you can look at and keep an additional card. Oh yeah, we're going to send her to the police station to look for weapons, which we're probably going to need. And I haven't quite finished the setup, but I'll get everything set up here. Let's take a look at the second follower. Is Brandon Lee, 68. Anywhere, once per round, you may increase an unused action die you control by 1. So that's for player 2. So they can just take any action die and increase it by 1. And the rest of the survivors just go in a pile off to the side of the board. We may get more later on. Okay, they also get 7 cards. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, and 7. All right, I know the setup's taking a while, but I just want to go through this. So they got some food and some fuel and some junk and fuel and food and food. So basically, if you play this to the waste pile, you add 1 food to the food supply. Gasoline is used for, if you play this card when moving a survivor you control, you do not roll for exposure. So that's actually a good thing. But you don't want to play all of your cards for all these abilities because you might need them for the crisis. And if you do not meet what's happening in the crisis, really, really bad things are going to happen. All right, I'm going to finish up now with setting up the colony because we were supposed to put 12 zombies in the colony. So let's add 12 zombies to our colony. And I'm going to get out the standees for all of the characters and put them in the colony as well. Alright, so I have all of our standees for all of our characters. So we got James Myers here, we got Olivia Brown, the doctor, and Sophia, the pilot. And then we've got our janitor, our police detective, Carla, and Brandon Lee, all in the colony. So currently we've got 13 people in the colony. Divided by 2 is we're going to end up needing 7 food to feed these people. But we can move some of our characters out of the colony. This is going to be brutal. It's going to be a very brutal thing. Of course, now we need to add 12 zombies to the colony. So what you do is you see numbers here, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. So basically you just start adding, going around the corner. If you get to the 7th one, you just add it. So bottom line, we're going to be adding basically 2 zombies to every single location. You never want them to be overrun, which means if they're all full, you have to add one. There's an overrun, and you kill a colonist. that has the lowest influence value, and that's just how it works. And of course, every colonist killed, you lose a morale. So it's a pretty rough game. So let me get the zombies out here on the board. And now that all the zombies are out on the board, things look a lot more menacing. So we've got 2 in every location. Luckily, for this scenario, none of the outer locations have any zombies on them. So we should be able to peel off a lot of people out of the colony and start searching for better items, weapons, etc. Now, the first player is going to be the one that has the highest leader value. So our janitor for group 2, our leader, only has a value of 26. However, James Meyer has a value of 54. He will be first player. And you're like, well, how does the game work? We're going to take a look at one of the sheets, go through all of everything on it relatively quickly, and then when we come back tomorrow, we'll get right into gameplay. Alright, so this is the round summary. This is the player actions you can take, and I found my bucket of zombies that come with the game. So they're, like I said, they're color, they're double-sided. They're actually very nice, but I prefer using the zombies, so that's what I'm doing. I also forgot to mention there is a humongous pile of crossroad cards, and they will be coming into play for the co-op as well, and I'll explain them briefly at the end once we run through this. So basically a round summary. We have 6 rounds to complete our objective in this game. So player turn phase, we start with that. We reveal the crisis. I talked about the crisis cards. They're bad. We roll our action dice. We have so many action dice per player. And then it's player turns. So the first player is going to go and take actions. And you can use the same character in your group multiple times, or you can spread it out. You can do whatever you want. Every character can move once on their turn. It's a free action. We'll get into those. And then after you're done, the player's doing everything they need to do, so try to avert the crisis, killing zombies, moving, searching, and stuff. Then it's the colony phase. So we got to pay for our food. For every colonist, you divide by 2, round up, and that's how much food you have to pay. If you don't, you starve, you lose morale. Then we have to check the waste. For every 10 cards in the waste pile, you lose 1 morale. So you want to clean up your waste once in a while, make sure that doesn't happen. And then you resolve the crisis. You either pass the crisis or really bad things are going to happen. Then you add zombies. For every outer location, you add 1 zombie per player character, that's there, not player character. So you add 1 for outer locations. At the colony, you do the same thing as you do with food. So you take the number of colonists, divide by 2, round it up. That's how many zombies show up at the colony. And because we've got 7 non-player sort of helpless survivors there, that means we're always getting at least 4 zombies showing up at the colony. So we've got to keep them under control somehow. And then we check the main objective. Did we win? Or did we lose? And we move the round tracker. Round tracker gets to 0, you lose. Morale gets to 0, you lose. And then you pass the first player token. Because it's a 2-player game, it's just going to bounce back and forth. All right, what can you do for your player turn actions? Well, actions that require a die to activate. Lots of them don't, some of them do. So to attack, you have to use a die. So I showed you attack values. Like his attack value is 6, so I need a 6+ die to have him attack. And attacking, if you meet the die requirement, you just automatically kill a zombie, not a problem. However, then you have to roll this die because attacking zombies could be potentially deadly. So there's that, unless you have special abilities. And then you can search at locations if you're there. You can build a barricade for any die value, doesn't matter what it is. Sometimes you get really garbage rolls, and if you get really, really bad rolls and you can't really do much, you can use your really low dice values to build barricades, which then of course block zombies coming into the area. Spend food tokens. You can take food tokens out of the food supply. Every food token you take out of there, of course, is lost to feeding your colonists, but it can give you a +1 on any of your unused action dice, so there's that. That's a bad thing to do. You can request an item from another player if you're in the same location. You can hand off an item or something, an item to be equipped to another player if you're in the same location. And you can vote to exile, not going to happen in the co-op game. Remember, the player to your right must draw a crossroads card at the beginning of the game. I'm going to back the camera out. We're going to take a quick look at crossroad cards, and we're going to wrap it up for today. We'll wrap it up today by reading the section that it says here, which is MO9 on page 7. 18. All right, let's take a look at the crossroad cards. How do these work? Well, there's as you can see, a very, very large deck of cards. So what happens is when a player takes their turn, and because we're doing a two-player co-op, so the first player is going to be James Meyer's group. We're going to draw a shuffled crossroads card, and it has a, well, we'll just take a look at one. So forest plum. So it has, in italics, says, if forest is in play. So if we had the forest character in play anywhere, this would trigger. Otherwise, it doesn't trigger. And so on. And a whole bunch of them have a whole bunch of different sort of things. So for every player turn, you draw a crossroads card. If it applies, or when it applies, you stop play, read the player crossroads card and do what it says, or follow instructions, make a choice, etc. That's the crossroads cards. And now let's get into page 17. Landed off there. And we were to read M09. So in the book you have a whole bunch of these MO things. So M09, too many mouths, February 10th. Is today Groundhog's Day? I can't remember anymore. Weird how hunger lets one dwell on such trivial thoughts. Shouldn't every brain cell be conserved right now? The canned goods ran out a week ago, and the grains followed shortly after. The chickens are gone, and so the last of the venison. We're living off what scraps we can find in town, but there aren't enough. I've never thought of myself as an evil man, but God help me, my thoughts are dark of late. I know I'm not the only one. There just isn't enough food to go around. It's hard to feel bitter when it has to be shared with people who don't pull their own weight. So, of course, we have lots of useless survivors. Those thoughts are wrong, I know that. It's no one's fault that the skills they possess belong to another world, another time. Our intellectual capacity is what separates us from animals. Yet, when our most basic needs cannot be met, it's hard not to think and act like animals. So that's our setup. And one final thing to note before we wrap up today. There are some of these crossroad cards that don't apply to the co-op game, and they have this little red symbol in the bottom. I think there's 7 cards or 8 cards or something out of a deck of like 100, so you're not losing a lot there. There are 2 characters that you won't be playing with, again, the symbol, so you remove those from the game. And because we are not playing semi-co-op, you don't use secret cards. Secret cards either have your personal objective in the game, or you can be a betrayer. You have your own very selfish thing you're trying to do. And we won't be exiling anybody because we're playing co-op, but there are exile cards. So if a player character, they get exiled from the game, then they get one of these, and it gives them different objectives that they need to complete. And that's basically the entire game. And one thing I did forget to mention, there are noise tokens. When you're searching at a location, and you say you pull 1 card, but you really need to find something desperately for the crisis, you can make noise at the location. For every noise up to 4 you make at the location, you can draw an extra card. So you could potentially draw 5 cards from one location if you really need to find, say, gasoline to avert the crisis or whatever. However, when you go to add zombies, for every noise token on the location, you roll a die. On a 1, 2, 3, a zombie appears. And you can see some places have 3 zombie locations, some have 4. If you ever get an overrun at a location, one of the survivors there is, of course, eaten and killed. So another way to lose morale. All right, I'm going to wrap it up there for today. So thanks so much for watching along. Make your comments, descriptions, and likes. This is Dead of Winter. We'll be doing a 2-player co-op, and when we come back tomorrow, we're going to start right into gameplay. Appreciate you watching along. It really helps out my channel, and we'll start tomorrow with Too Many Mouths to Feed.